Well, hello guys. Good evening. This is Gina with Nailed It DIY Studio, and I am coming to you from my dining room. So if you saw my social media earlier today, then you know that this evening's live we are talking about chalk paint. And I am actually leaning here, okay, on my dining room table. And I have, hey Mandy, how are you? And I have my mirror here, okay? Now, I meant to ask my husband because he's the numbers person in the family. If you know me at all, then you know numbers, I'm more like ish with numbers. I don't love them, so I don't remember them, okay? But this mirror that I'm leaning on here, that I'm chalk painting and showing you guys, gosh, we have had this mirror forever, so long. And that's why if you saw the pictures on my social media, then you would have noticed, okay, it's a little outdated, all right? Probably more than a little outdated if I'm being honest here. But, we've had it for so long. It's traveled with us when we have moved to different houses. And so we've always kept it. It's one of those things, if you guys can relate to this, let me know in the comments, okay? Because it's one of those things, like we bought this not long after we were first married and had our first house, okay? And this was like one of our first big adult purchases, if you know what I mean. So if you've got an adult purchase like that, let me know you can relate and I'm not the only one that's crazy in the comments. So I guess that's why it's just we've always kept it, right? And it's always traveled. And not that we've moved tons and tons of times, but we have moved a few times, and each time we have found a spot for it, right? So the spot for it in this house has been our dining room. Now it's on the wall that you guys can't see right now. It's the wall that's more like facing me. That's where it goes. Now, our dining room is not huge. It's a little bit on the smallish side, and it's semi-awkward because it's got multiple entryways into it. So you can maybe see a little bit of the molding behind me. This entryway that's behind me, that goes out into our hallway, straight into the foyer, straight to the front door. So if you come in our front door, then you'll see back into the dining room, okay, from the front door. So to this side of me, you can kind of see a little bit of that molding edge. That goes into the kitchen, okay? And then this direction, where if I were looking straight, there's sliding glass doors that goes out to the deck. So like there's not a ton of wall space in here, and it is like it's got multiple entries, okay? So it's not a huge dining room. So if you're working in a room and have a room in your home that is not huge, you know how great a mirror is, right? Because it reflects light, it makes the space look bigger. So it was a great place. It was just a natural fit for the mirror to go. However, if you saw my mirror on social media, like I said, it's a little outdated. So I have always wanted to try chalk paint. Always wanted to try it. Never have. I don't really know why I've never tried it, but I haven't. So I thought this would be a fairly simple, non-intimidating project to try chalk paint for the first time. And so since I own a DIY studio, of course I couldn't just go and buy chalk paint. I wanted to do it myself. So I'm going to talk to you guys about my DIY recipe that I found. Now, I didn't invent the recipe, okay? But what I did was I found a recipe. I read a lot of different recipes, a lot of different blogs that spoke about chalk paint and DIY recipes and pros and cons and so forth. Okay, so what I decided to try was this. So let me grab, I've got behind me. This is in my chalk paint recipe, plaster of Paris. All right, if you buy this plaster of Paris, I don't know what else you might use it for, but if you're using it for chalk paint, like this is gonna last for probably the entire rest of your life because it doesn't take a lot of plaster of Paris in the recipe. So you're using a very small amount. But the thing that I love about it, and the reason too, besides just the fact that like I totally want to make chalk paint myself, besides just that thought process, I thought, the cool thing about making your own chalk paint, one of the cool things, is that you could do some different kinds of colors. So you're not as limited to just colors of chalk paint that you may find out there. So if you want to get super creative with color, then plaster of Paris is going to be your friend. All right. So plaster of Paris, it's a 3-ingredient DIY recipe, and I'll post the recipe in the comments later. So it's plaster of Paris, it's latex paint. Okay, that's it. Just ordinary, regular latex paint and water. That's all you've got to use. It's so super cool. So what I ended up doing originally, I was going to use some leftover paint, and I'm like, we've got all kinds of paint around here that we've done different projects with, and I just knew I had paint out in the garage that I was going to be able to pull and use. Well, I didn't, because I'd barely had enough, and I didn't want to run out, right? So what I ended up doing, I wanted my paint to be flat. And a lot of things that I read about chalk paint, it's a good recommendation if you're going to make your own chalk paint to get a flat paint. That's going to really help you to not see a lot of boo-boos. Although chalk paint is super forgiving, so if you're not really pro level on your painting skills, chalk paint is definitely your friend. So what I ended up doing is I went and got the little sample. Okay, can you guys see that? So I got the little sample. This is an 8-ounce sample of paint, okay? It was like $4. You can't go wrong with that, okay? And then you can get it tinted. And so choose any color you want, get it tinted, super cool. Now the recipe for chalk paint, okay? Here we go. And I mixed it, by the way. This was a takeout container. And so I felt like it was a fabulous container for making my chalk paint. Wouldn't you agree? So I mixed it in this. If you're looking for a way to clean out the fridge, okay, clean out the fridge, get you a takeout container, make some chalk paint. All right, so I mixed it in here. So here's what you're gonna do. You're going to take the plaster of Paris. Now I halved my recipe. Since I was just doing my mirror and wasn't doing like a pretty substantial size piece of furniture, I didn't even use this whole sample size of the paint because I knew I wasn't going to need that much. That's the other great thing about the chalk paint DIY, is that you can make as much or as little as you want. So I halved my recipe. So what I did, I didn't actually measure this, truth be told. I just used about half of it. The original recipe calls for a cup of paint, for 4 tablespoons of plaster of Paris, and 2 tablespoons of cold water. That's it. Now, the key here, while you're making your chalk paint, and one of the reasons why it's so good to use a container like this, you're going to want to mix your plaster of Paris and the water first. So you're going to measure that out, put it in your container, and get all the lumps out. That's important for the texture and the consistency of your chalk paint. You've got to stir it, stir it, stir it, get all those lumps out. Then add in your paint. So I, again, halved my recipe. So I poured in about half of this little sample size into my container and mixed it. So super simple, super easy. You can definitely tell it's got a different texture than just the latex paint. Obviously, if you've never worked with plaster of Paris, this is like a dry powder. And so that's what's giving it that chalky finish. So that's it, 3 ingredients. Mix it up, get all the lumps out of your plaster of Paris water combo, put in your paint, whatever color you want, but it needs to be latex paint and it needs to be flat, in my opinion. Now you could use a different sheen, but personally, flat is the way to go. All right, so now I'm going to show you what to do next. By the way, guys, if you are in a painting project and you are not storing your paintbrush inside a plastic bag, you need to, because that totally saves you from having to wash out your paintbrush so often. So what I did here, and I'm going to move my phone in just a moment so that you guys can get a closer look of this. So this is obviously just a regular paintbrush. You need one of those, okay, to do your chalk paint. And I'm going to open up my takeout container here that has my lovely chalk paint inside of it. By the way, so what I did, I wanted a really light, not a pure white color. I wanted it to have a little bit of gray in it, so that's what I chose for this project. So I'm going to move this, and I'm going to show you guys. Hang on one second here. Woo, hello. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like up close, because what I did, here we go, flip the camera around. So what I did, you can see here, obviously, look at that beautiful mirror, okay? You guys see what I'm talking about? By the way, this is my table protector because I forgot to put craft paper down before I put this big heavy mirror on the table, and I wasn't going to pick it up again, so my Lowe's Foods grocery bag just slides around perfectly and keeps me from painting my table. But you guys can see what I mean about this mirror. Like, it's really outdated. It definitely needs a refresh. So I left one side not painted so that you guys could see what it would look like, or what it looked like originally if you didn't get to see it on social media earlier. And then you can see how easy it is to paint it. Now on this side, I'm going to try to zoom that in. Can you guys see that? What I did is I've only got one coat here. So right here where you're looking, you can see when you paint that first coat of the chalk paint on there. And so obviously I've got my painter's tape here so that I didn't get paint all over my mirror. But you can see what it looks like. And the great thing too, if you are going to make your own chalk paint, it dries super fast. Everything I read about chalk paint, the DIY version with the plaster of Paris, dries much faster than, quote, your store-bought chalk paint. Okay, so you can see what it looks like with one coat. Now I'm going to move to this side. Okay, this side actually already has two coats on it, and you can see how on that second coat it's really nice and filled in. It looks awesome. So let's contrast it. Hopefully that'll clear up and you guys can see. So you can see the streaks where it's only got one coat, and you can see how nice and fully covered it looks there with two coats. So when you're painting, I mean, there's no magic tricks here. And I'm going to stir my chalk paint around. Sorry for that moving of the camera. So you guys can see there's no real tricks here. It's just painting. Okay, so nothing special, nothing fancy. My mirror, you can see it was very ornate. So you kind of have to really get down into those cracks and crevices so that way you can get the paint down in there. But you're just going to brush it on just like that. Okay, so you can see how easy that's going on. Of course, you're going to make sure you get all the sides. So you can see how easy that's going on. Super easy, user-friendly. Now I'm going to show you guys here on this other side. This is the side, again, where I've already got one coat. So you can see, hopefully, as I'm putting on this second coat, how well it begins to cover and how easy it is on that second coat to just, can you guys see that? To just fully cover it. So this is second coat here. Coming back to this side, you can see first coat. So obviously, I'm going to flip it back around here. So obviously you want to do more than one coat. It's not going to cover with just one coat. So be prepared for that. And otherwise, that's it. Like, it's super fun, easy to do. One of the things, again, that I love about this DIY version of the chalk paint is that if you wanted to do something really fun with color, you could certainly do that because you're going to mix it with any latex paint that you want. You can make small quantities of the chalk paint, so that's also awesome. So if you're just doing a small project like my mirror here, you can make a small quantity, cut that recipe in half, and then you're not really wasting. One of the things though, if you are mixing up your own chalk paint, you're going to want to use it within a few days. I haven't tried this or left it this long, but I have read that it doesn't keep well. so it kind of gets hard. I think you can put more water in it and help to get the lumps out and smooth it back down. So I don't think that it's completely unusable after a couple of days, but you want to, not be too slow about accomplishing your project. So make sure that you've got the time to probably get all your coats on. This, by the way, when I put my first coat on this, it was dry within 30 minutes, like completely dry. Could touch it dry, ready for the second coat to go on there dry. So I love that. And again, DIY chalk paint dries much faster than what you're going to buy in the store. And the other great thing about it is it's way less expensive. So if you've ever priced chalk paint, I know there's a lot more versions than there used to be, but if you've ever priced chalk paint, it is more pricey than just regular latex paint. So this is a great alternative for that. So save yourself some money, make it yourself, and do some fun projects around your house with chalk paint. So while I've got you guys on here, I'm going to give you, so I will obviously finish painting my mirror and get it hung back up, and I'll do some pictures of the after so that you guys can see what it looks like. You'll have to let me know what you think about my finished project. But while you guys are on here, you can see behind me, maybe let me get closer. This is one of our fabulous Nailed-It signs. Don't you love it? It's one of my faves here in my dining room. You can maybe see, can you see that my walls are green? They're kind of an olivey green in here, and I've been thinking about repainting. Maybe that's a better, yeah, maybe that's better. You can see the green walls a little bit better. So I'm the person that, yes, I love the modern farmhouse look, but I also love color. So if you come in my house, by the way, come on over, y'all. We'll hang out. If you come into my house, you're going to see there's lots of color in my house because I've always been a fan of color. But I am thinking about painting these walls. So you guys will have to wait and see. Who knows? I might show you a whole new dining room reveal with painted walls. But one of the things that I am going to do next, I'm going to flip this back around. Okay, there we go. If you can see my table here, and ignore, can you see my sleeping dog? That's part of my dog right there laying on the floor. If you can see my table here, okay, wood table. One of my next projects is I'm going to do something with this table. I haven't fully decided, but I'm picturing chalk paint on the legs. So my practice for the mirror, right? So chalk paint on the legs and maybe a darker top. So we'll see. Anyway, I hope that you guys learned a little bit about chalk paint, how easy it is to make your own chalk paint. And I hope that you enjoyed watching. I appreciate you joining in. Don't forget, we've got a couple of fun things coming up at the studio. Our Flamingo Night, Christmas in July is still going on. So you guys have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you in the studio soon.